All right, this is the density calculations class activity. So the purpose of this activity is to further understand density and to practice using the equation to calculate density. That can be seen over here to the right. Now, in the directions, each section is designed to understand density in a different way. So every section has a different set of instructions to help you with that. Now, there are some videos. There's this video that will help you with some of the sections and do some of the problems and talk you through them. But there's also this video which will help explain what density is even further if you don't understand it. So let's just go over the first part. The first part is real easy. Just get some of those key terms out of the way. Well, what is defined as the measured amount of matter or stuff in an object? We know that that's going to be mass, right? Now, what is defined as the measurement of the amount of space a substance takes up? We know that that definition is volume. Now, what this whole section is about is what is defined as the amount of mass within a certain volume. So that's going to be density, right? That's going to be mass per volume, right? So that is what the equation is up there. So let's go ahead and go down here to this next section. So below are several squares of various sizes, which represent their volume. Right, so the number of dots in the squares represent the mass of the object, and you can see here I've given you those. I've counted those, so you don't have to go in and individually count them. They're right there. If you do want to, you can do that. Now the squares won't turn green until this entire row is correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the first one in each of them because they're asking about the volume, the mass, and the density. And in each one of them, like that first one, it says, well, which block has the largest volume? And then the next one says, which one has the smallest volume? And then there are two blocks that have the same volume. And that's the same thing for mass and density. So let's just go ahead and let's look at this hint here, right? So the size of the squares represent the volume. The number of dots in each square represent the mass. So the numbers are in the instructions for this section. And how close the dots are to each other represent density. So let's look at this first one. Let's look at volume. Which block has the largest volume? Well, which one takes up the most amount of space? So that's going to be F. I can see that. Now notice this did not turn green. That doesn't mean I got it wrong. I would just have to get question 5 and 6 correct in order for that to turn green. But I just want to go over what each of these sections represent. So which block, let's do number 7. Which block has the largest mass? So that would be the largest number of those dots. So I can go in and individually count them, but up here I can see here that E is going to have the most. E has 83 dots. So I'm going to go in there and click E. Now, once again, it's not going to turn green, but until I get question 8 and then question 9 correct. And question 10, well, which block has the largest density? So let's see here. How close the dots are to each other represent density. So which one has the more tightly packed dots? Well, that's going to be C. That has the that's going to be the most dense object there. Good. So once you get the rest of that row correct, those will turn green as well. All right, so let's go to the next section and let's solve a couple of these problems because that's what it's about. It's about using this equation up here, right? So solve the following problems by entering the values into the red boxes. Don't use spaces when entering values. The squares won't turn green until the value and the unit are correct. So let's look at this first one. A block of aluminum occupies a volume of 15 milliliters and has a mass of 40.5 grams. What is its density? So let's say all of these have a little hint. Use the equation triangle to find the equation to solve for the unknown. The unknown in this problem is density, right? So we're trying to find the density here. So let's just type in what we know. We know the volume is going to be 15. And then I come in here and I need to know the units. Well, volume, we're going to do that in milliliters. Good. All right. The mass, let's see here. The mass is 40.5, and that is going to be in grams. Good. All right. Now I need to find the density, right? So if I come up here, this is the equation for density that I'm going to use. But you can use the triangle by covering up what you don't know. So if I come up here and I cover density, well, density is going to equal mass divided by volume. So I'm going to come in here, and that's the equation that I'm going to use. So now I can use that. So all I have to do is take the mass, which is 40.5 grams, divided by 15 milliliters. So I take 40.5 divided by 15. That's going to give me 2.7. There you go. And I come in here 2.7. And the unit is going to be grams per milliliter. Good. All right. So now that we did one, let's do one where we calculate volume. Let's do number 15 down here. There we go. Right. So hint, here it is. This one, the unknown, is the volume. Right. So calculate the volume with a liquid density of 5.5 grams per milliliter and a mass of 60.5 grams. So let's just fill in what we know first. So I know the density is going to be 5.5, and the unit is grams per milliliter. And the mass is going to be 60.5, and the unit is going to be grams. Now I'm trying to find the volume. So now I need to figure out, well, which equation am I going to use? So I come up here to this triangle. I cover up the volume. And volume is mass divided by density. Right? So volume is mass divided by density. So all I have to do in this one is I take the mass, which is 60.5, divided by the density, which is 5.5, and that gets me 11. Right? That gets me 11. The unit for volume, milliliters. Good. Now let's do one where we have to calculate the mass. Good. Here's one, right? So once again, the hint just tells you use a triangle. The unknown in this problem is mass. So let's just fill in what we know. So calculate the mass of a liquid with a density of 2.5 grams per milliliter and a volume of 15 milliliters. So what I know the density. It's 2.5. And I come in here and I get milliliters. Oh, nope, sorry. Grams per milliliter. That's my fault. Remember, the unit for density is grams per milliliter. I know the volume is going to be 15 milliliters. Good. Now, the formula that I'm going to use, I have to come up here, I cover up the mass, and it's going to be density times volume. Mass equals density times volume. So now all I have to do is just multiply my density, which is 2.5, multiplied by 15, which is my volume, and I get 37.5. So I get 37.5, and then that's going to be grams. Good. All right. So that's an example of how you do all three. One where you find the density, one where you find the volume, and one where you find the mass. So once again, this is the class activity for density calculations.